So you always found scapegoats. So and the people just did what they did. So one of the things that this country now is doing is first education and decentralization of powers.
Hmm.
So meaning if you see from the time you were here, you had the country was divided in 12 provinces, and now it's been divided in 5 big regions: east, west, north, south, and then the
Kigali Metropolitan.
Yeah. And so within these regions, you have 5 to 7 districts. And now the country has 30 districts with mayors elected on a popular ballot. These mayors,
Okay, they're not appointed.
they're not appointed. Governors are appointed.
Right, right.
And the governors, it's only for a small transition, a transitional phase. They put the governors there because they to sort of manage the entire region. However, those are political appointments and political positions. They don't have budgets. The budgets are in the districts. You see? But now we reached, after about 4 or 5 years, we reached a level when now the budgets are going to go even below the district at sector level.
Wow.
And the country has about 216 sectors. Each district has probably 10 different sectors, right? So the budgets, so the person responsible for the sector will really be the person closer to the population. And the idea is like, how can the central government decide what grows in the southern province? Right? So that's the whole thing. That's how the things are going. And now, to give it some impact or some strength, each mayor makes a plan for a year, requests for a yearly budget, and signs a performance contract with the president of the country.
This performance contract is really an interesting
And right now
tool.
they're in appraisals. They're appraising what they've been doing. After 6 months, they come and say, this is what you said you were going to do. This is the
So
money that was
halfway
given
through
to
the
you."
year.
Halfway through the year, and they inspect. And at the end of the year, they give a report. And if this report, if they haven't done 50% of what they said they would do, and the money is mismanaged, they're out. Not only are they out, they are prosecuted. So it is really a very serious thing.
So you say right now here in July, they're going through that mid-year.
Right now as we speak, the media review. Right now as we speak, they're all going.
And then at the end of the year, there was I want to say it must have been a district, a district up around in Gerard Sina's area,
Yeah.
where what's the leader of the district called?
No, I don't know. I don't know.
Anyway, it's not the governor, but because the governor is the district. No, province. Go ahead, take that. Huh?
No, it's fine.
The province,
Oh.
and then the district. So the leader of the district, in a competition, last year this was the guy who won of all the 30 districts around the mayor. That's what it is.
The mayor.
Yeah,
The mayor.
of course.
That's his mayor.
The mayor.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the thing in terms of recognition
Yeah.
of what, it's not just we're signing a contract, but then we're looking at who's not just meeting the goal, but exceeding the goals. And this guy got, and I actually saw him in San Francisco because he had a water project that we were at a fundraiser at in San Francisco. And he was the mayor who had won last year's national kind of competition.
Yeah, they rank them. They go into parliament and they rank them one by one. Like where I am now, the district of Gramagana was the last for the past 2 years.
Oh, really? At the bottom?
At the bottom. So, but the district of Gramagana, the Eastern province. But like for instance, and that's how they now. I mean, and you can tell like the southern, and that's how you see that this system works. Is the southern district, the southwest, that had been left behind by the president of the first republic and the second, had completely ignored these areas, the Cyangugu and Gikongoro areas, the badly
It's just the end of the earth in Rwanda. If you pick any place, you ask a Rwandan, what's the end of the earth? And they'll go,
Yeah.
Gikongoro,
Yeah.
Cyangugu.
Exactly. Well, that's where each person said, "Oh, Rwandans, and the people from Gikongoro." and the mayor over there, for 3 years in a row, was the best, made it the best district in the country.
Wow.
And now that mayor has become governor, and the governor of that area is now the mayor of Kigali.
Interesting.
You know?
Interesting.
And now the mayor of Kigali has been given the district of the Eastern District, the Eastern Province, which is the biggest district, and now works for the UN. So there is a way that you can grow, you know, even politically as you perform.
Well, and I also noticed that once in politics doesn't mean always in politics.
Absolutely.
There's a fair number of people who have, like, in rebuilding Rwanda, felt like I gave service to my country for these 10 years, and now I've gone off into private enterprise.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is it the mayors that are ranked or the governors that are ranked, or both?
Not the mayors.
Just the mayors that are
Just the
ranked?
mayors. Just the mayors that are ranked. The governor position was a position that was created, I think, for maybe for 5 to 10 years, and then, yeah, it was one governor sort of consolidates and you know, and I think also can attend cabinet meetings on need basis.
Is it Parliament that evaluates the work of each district?
Who ranked?
What's the rank? I mean, the people who
It's evaluated
look
by
over.
the district, by the executive, but also Parliament has its own
Evaluate.
evaluation.
Okay.
Yes.
And does each
The
budget
report.
that's set, is that determined by the person making out its plan, or is there an equal amount of funding for each district?
No, it becomes
According to the plan of the,
basically the central government will give an outline of where they want to be, I mean the Bible is the Vision 2020. You know, we have to go into
Where we want water points, how many health centers we want, how many
Exactly.
classrooms we want, teachers per student,
exactly.
those
that's
ratios.
central government.
Yes, that's central
Okay.
government.
And
then
2020 that he's talking about, where does that come from?
it came from central government at the very beginning of the early 2000s. Vision 2020 is where the country wants to be in 2020. Is it GDP, GNP per capita would be about $1,000, I think. $900 to $1,000.
Is the plan to lead it out of the developing country status to
So-
a first
so-
world?
Yeah.
Who wrote
Status.
the plan?
Government?
Government.
Yeah.
I mean, this is Kagame's visionary leadership.
Yeah, absolutely.
And-
And back then he also had a very strong, very strong Minister of Finance, Donald Kaberuka, who today is the President of the African Development Bank.
And so
Interesting.
each plan that each district sets up, if it doesn't seem to be following strong enough towards this vision, does the Parliament or the government, someone help to, I guess, encourage, you know, in other words, if they come with their plan and it doesn't look adequate, is there a sense of,
Capacity building?
yeah, I guess that's the word I want.
Because I've gotten the impression again and again that it's not like we're a cop and we're going to bust you, but
Yeah.
it's like if we're not successful, how can we make you successful?
Yeah.
And if the way to make you successful is because you're corrupt and lazy and stuff like that, well,
Yeah, that's no negotiation.
yeah.
And that's when they're assessed. Do they take into account the resources that each district or the
Absolutely.
provinces? Like, there are some that are
Sorry.
wealthier with natural resources, or
Absolutely.
already had an infrastructure in place. There were others that were more affected during the genocide, or the poverty level is low.
Absolutely. They're taking account every.
Because it's like teaching school. You might teach in a school where the kids have had private tutors and their parents are wealthier. You might teach in a school like mine where many of the children don't speak English.
And that's why it's important. That's why it's important that the plan is decided by the mayor and the community right there. They know themselves better than the central
What the
government.
issues are, the
What the
problems
issues
are.
are. Yeah. And why they, you know, like if you look at the Eastern Province, it doesn't rain. It's a dry area.
Right.
So one of the things is to build places where
Dams.
dams where to
Right.
yeah
Right.
Catch
a
water.
catch water, storage area for food. When they grow food in excess, how do they conserve the food? That's one of the areas. And this time, and the person would say there won't be famine in my district.
Does the community have a say in some of the steps, or is the community allowed to put forth their ideas or their vision?
Absolutely, that's the whole purpose.
Okay.
Because and of course it has to trickle down. It started with the governors, now the mayors, and now it's going to sector levels. At some point, even the district mayor will not be that important. It will be the sectors. The sector, each sector, sort of having its own little quote-unquote government.
Do they have like town hall meetings where people in the community can come and gather and go, this is what
They
we
do
need?
it all the time. They have it all the time.
So real
Yes.
grassroots.
Absolutely, real grassroots, and at least once a month, the president decides on a place to go. Random, he says, "I'm going to this place," and he goes to the
Town hall meeting?
not even just that
Oh,
place,
just to
the place where there is the least development, sits there with the population, start addressing issues.
And somebody was telling us the other day, people are becoming more vocal and complaining directly to the president.
Absolutely. When I worked in the president's office, wow, I was seeing some of these meetings.
When was that?
I worked there from end of 2001, early 2002 to 2006.
Okay.
Yes. So
In the communication section?
section. So he used to go into places and sit with the population, and you know the one couple. I think some key issues that you may have heard of. One cow per poor family project. That's another project. And again, one of the things that is unique to Rwanda is any policy that is designed has to have a connection with the traditional Rwanda. So that's how the whole idea of one cow per poor family projects began. The most poor person, what does he or she not have? Food or anything to eat. So what are we going to do? We're going to give that person a cow. A cow that can produce up to 10 liters of milk per day. Most likely the family will consume about 2, maximum to 3 liters. What do they do with the 10, the remaining 7 to 8 liters? There are milk stations in the area. They sell it 200 francs a liter. They make it 1,000 francs a day, which is $2. And that's how one of the ways to start.
Did you guys see where
Yeah.
the van was
Yes.
parked at the market yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
That was a cooperative, a milk collection
And we
point.
passed one on the way up
There
to the
was
game
one
park.
out
On the way to the
Yeah, I
game
saw
park,
it.
yeah.
Now, what's
Yeah.
interesting now is this cow comes with milk and also comes pregnant. When the cow
And it
Oh,
must
yeah.
be a mix if it's giving 10 liters, because
Yes.
Rwandan cows don't give 10
No,
liters.
it's a mix. They're mixed, yes.
Yeah.
Now, when the cow gives birth, you are mandated to donate that baby calf to your neighbor, so that one can
Yeah.
have,
Yes, it's on.
you know, and that promotes reconciliation.
Oh.
What qualifies someone as very poor in order to qualify for getting a cow?
I think there are standards. There are, I think in, I can't remember which ministry it is, but basically
Is the community identifying?
the community identifies. The community identifies and does list of people who are very poor and have needs. So it could be you don't have a house, then the community has to build a house for you.
You see, Amiel, who I was telling you guys about the other day, in his cow project, he works directly with the sector, and the sector is identifying the families that are there, and it's not always the poorest, as I mentioned the other day, because if you give a cow sometimes to the poorest family, the family may not yet be ready to care for the cow, and it might die. And so that's why the people at the local sector, right at the grassroots, are saying, you know, hey, this family is poor, but they're capable of doing this, or this family maybe will get goats, and we'll give cow to the other family. But when we met with Women for Women International, remember again, it was the community who was identifying the families, and the community, you know, there's the chance for corruption among there and saying, oh, it's just the officials' family members who get this. But when you've got a clearer channel for people to respond directly to the government, they can go past that sector personnel and to the next one. And so that's why they also had the Office of the Ombudsman here, which was about when you had grievances with your local government, you'd come right to Kigali, and the lady who will meet, who happens to be Jean-Claude's mother-in-law, she was in the Office of the Ombudsman for a while, and she was the lady who was at Kisimba Orphanage hiding with her husband and children there. And she just had a row full of mothers and children mostly sitting outside her office there. I remember visiting her. And when I talked to her boss, the ombudsman at that time, again, it was this idea, you know, the newspapers, he says, get kind of frustrated because they want juicy stories of corrupt politicians and sell newspapers. But we're not really interested in throwing people in jail. We're interested in making people successful. And I think that's this whole idea of capacity building and making people successful is very, very clear vision cast by the president. But we're seeing it going down through, because there is that old mentality of the cop mentality, and we're going to bust you. We're going to fight corruption by throwing everyone in jail that we can smell corruption on, or let's set up a system of accountability. And so instead of just putting you in a situation where it's easy to be corrupt and to, you know, be sucked in by all of that, we've got a system of accountability. We've got a contract with the president. We've got this report card system. They call it a scorecard. They just set up a new program. And I was wondering when Teresa was asking too about evaluating how the scorecard, because it seems like what I'm hearing of the different places is that we're getting evaluations and accountability from many different points, not just from we are the grader of the country. And so tell us a little bit of how that fits in the governance board of, what is it, Rwandan Board of Governance?
Yeah, RGB, yes, Governance Board.
Okay.
Well, I'm not very, very familiar.
It's a new one.
Yes, with the scorecard, because I'm really into the private sector.
Okay,
That's
fine.
Yeah,
we
and,
might
but-
stop by that
yes.
office to pick up some scorecards and
Yes.
get a little update on that.
But like you said, evaluation is done at different ends, you know.
And that ability of people, growing ability of people to address their concerns, to address whoever, that's an incredible form of education too.
That's human rights.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
Yes.
really empowering the people beyond the formal education. I mean, that's amazing.
And you look at, and it starts with so many things. Education has to be accessible to everyone. That's one. Health has to be accessible to everyone. Again, that's another thing. Today we have more than between 95 and 98% of Rwandans have a medical card.
It's more than Americans.
Oh my gosh, that's
And
wonderful.
it started by Rwandans paying 1,000 francs, and they get 75% of the health costs subsidized. Now they have to pay 3,000 francs, you know, but you still have 75%. And
Per
now,
year, 3,000 per
yeah,
year.
3,000 francs per year, which is what, $5. So, and now, the same system now, if you pay up to 7,000, you can even be evacuated outside of the country
For medical treatment.
for medical treatment.
How long have these programs been in effect? Since President Kagame took office, or?
They started, well, yeah, he took office in 2000, but up until 2000, the country was still unstable, you know, because of the incursion, people coming in from the west, from the Gisenyi area and stuff. The country really, really started thinking of economic development in 2000, and that's when they laid out the 2020 vision, started in 2000.
Well, the
Something.
6% or so that don't have the card, the medical card, is that their choice or can they not afford it?
Either they cannot afford it, and that means the government
Needs to work on that. Wow.
needs to work on them. And the same thing in the schools. And now that the kids goes to school, there is this policy again that every high school needs to give a cup of milk for each kid.
Mhm.
Public school. I would like for you to visit some public schools. They have better lives than we have at the House of Shalom.
They want to, and if you could recommend us one in particular, I know students are on break, but some are maybe in session, but that was one of the things I was wanting to ask you about is a school that hopefully not so far from Kigali, but not in the city, but something a little more rural that we could visit. Think on that one if you can.
Sure. Yeah, I think there's a school that we like to compete with called St. Aloys.
Mm-hmm.
It is about 40 minutes away.
Towards which direction?
Gramagana.
Okay.
Have you been east?
Yeah, we went to
that-
Akagera.
You went to Akagera. Let me think of a couple of maybe I
Okay, yeah.
try to think of a
Think on
couple of
that.
schools.
And I don't know if you know anybody on the way up or back. This afternoon we're gonna head up to Gerard Sina Gerard's place.
Okay.
And he has a school too that we can visit there. But again, his school is growing. He doesn't have a lab that I saw.
No,
but-
his is private and it's still primary.
Yeah.
But the reason.
And he's gone to secondary too.
Oh yes. Okay. Last time I went there. It was
He
still,
even has
yes.
maternal school now.
Yeah. No,
In
he's
the-
amazing. he is amazing.
But it's all right. It's in the early stages.
But it's still private. The school's
Yeah.
funded by the government. Again, when you look at the vision, science and technology is really one of the prime focuses where the country wants to go. So you look at the science labs; they are very, very well equipped, and that's why today some of our kids now, some of our kids graduating high schools. Some of them have been able to go to some undergrad schools in some Ivy League university coming straight from here, you know. And these kids don't necessarily come from Green Hills or Ecole Belge. They come from the different schools in Rwanda, you know.
That's excellent.
So that shows that the level is slowly coming up. I think you can even access it on the Ministry of Finance website. You will see that the Ministry of Education has really the lion's share in terms of how much
Budget.
money, the budget. It used to be infrastructure. Now I think the roads and things are going, and now it's slowly reducing, and health and education are taking the biggest lead. But it starts at the very bottom, and I can see like this is why now we are recruiting, you know, kids from like at House Shalom from every place. The kids who came in this year are much better off than the kids that I saw last year.
Wow.
And you could tell that the kids that are in like senior 3 or grade 9 now are by far probably more open and better off than the kids who are graduating this year.
Wow.
That shows the quality of education
Increasing.
is rapidly increasing. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I didn't mean to rush. So my understanding is that every child in Rwanda has the opportunity to go to primary school, correct?
And secondly.
And
It
so,
started with
okay, I was going to
manual
move on to
basic.
that. It doesn't matter, their marks isn't, it doesn't.
Now again, it goes back to the issue of quality. Because the country had to build about 5,000 classrooms in less than 6 months.
Wow.
It did not get the, and then it enrolled so many kids that were out of school, especially the girls, because girls were left out. Today we have 49% girls in schools,
Wow.
as opposed to 51% boys, and it started from probably below 30%, because parents didn't believe in sending girls in school. So there was a law, you must send your kid to school, but you will face penalties. So they're sending the girls in school as well. And now, I mean, the statistics are amazing, really. But the quality is not there yet. We have more than about 4,000 Ugandans and Kenyans teachers, Kenyan teachers. They come to teach English to the teachers, you know, and because our teachers, the system of going into English, even French was not working well. So they said, let's do it in English, especially because also we're in East Africa, and we will be dealing mostly towards the East. So starting school with English, you have over 4,000 teachers, and it will be phased out in the years to come, in the next 5 years.
Can I ask a political question?
Sure.
Okay. I've only been in Rwanda 9 days, but I hear such positive, amazing things about President Kagame, and I know he's already in his second term. Do you think that his philosophy and his practices have been integrated enough that they will continue when he's no longer president? And then also, is there someone in the wings that shares that vision that you think might be elected?
Well, he happens also to be the chairman of his political party, and I think at the same time, while he's working hard on the country, he's also working hard on his political party.
Prepping people
And
to take over.
and you can tell there is a lot of again capacity building at all levels, not only not so much in politics, but mainly like what does the country need to get out. I think the legacy he wants to leave is probably to by the time he leaves, departs in 2017, is like, I want to be sure that the genocide can never happen again.
Right.
And that's through the different levels of development, and also I think also he will probably work on also strengthening his party to compete fairly with other different parties, and if his party gets to win, I'm certain that there will be somebody in the party to follow
Who
the
has
vision.
that vision and will
Absolutely.
continue with it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How long is the presidential term?
It's 7 years.
7 years.
So that's the second term that is about
Two-term limit.
Do the other offices, are there set terms, or are they performance based?
No, in the Senate, I think it's 8. In Parliament, it's 5 or 6. No, 6. And the rest is performance. I would think that. Supreme Court as well. I mean, some of these high institutions in terms. Yeah. I think even the top officials in the army as well. They also have terms. Yeah, like the chief of staff, I think is a 5-year term limit. Things like that.
What would he do then after being chief of the military after 5 years? Just retire?
Well,
Go into private?
some go into private because, but the one who stayed the longest has become Minister of Defense.
Minister of Defense?
Yes. Minister of Defense. But there are, and that's the thing, we need to build the private sector, and that's another place where, as you build the private sector, as you lay out all these different, you have some former army officers who have gone completely private sector, and they're doing very well. They're doing very, very well.
Since we're speaking about the military, last week, I think I mentioned to you when we had dinner, we met the Commissioner General of the prison system, who was a high-ranking military officer in the former government, and for these last part of the 90s and well into 2000 was leading attacks on Rwanda from the Congo, that former. and I don't know the details, but he, in broad strokes, with a group of soldiers, surrendered, was some demobilized or the integration of the military, and today he's the Commissioner General of the prison system in Rwanda, a man who for a fair number of years fought against Rwanda in these incursions in the north. That strikes me as quite bizarre. But I'm also told that he's not the only one.
He's number two. He's number two. Who came with him is the Deputy Chief of Staff of the Reserve Force, which is a very, very big position in the army. Because the Reserve Force is all the soldiers who are demobilized. You know, so you count in thousands and thousands. He's the number two Chief of Staff, and before that he was the special advisor to the Chief of Staff. And he's
Under Habyarimana?
No,
Or
no,
under
no.
this one?
Under this
What
one.
did he do before?
Before, one of the reasons, first of all, the reason for them to return, they were fighting a government and they decided we can't beat them and there is no
future.
no future. And two, we were not part of the genocide. They were not part of any operations during the genocide. So we have really nothing to fear. So they said, can we come home? Here they said, we will be very happy to reintegrate you if, you know, because we also know that you have not done anything, none of you done. And that's how they came and they reintegrated. And now they are very respected, high-ranking officers in the army.
And the ones who are unhappy in this talk of attempted assassination in South Africa, and the newspaper headlines say this one one of President Kagame's closest allies, and now accusing the president and fleeing for his life. And what can you tell us about any of those stories?
Well,
Being that you study journalism. No.
well, you know, again, there is how would I say that? When you're too close to power, sometimes you have a tendency to also start thinking more overly of yourself. And some of these people who fled were, it's true, at some point very close to the present government. The one in South Africa was at some point the chief of staff of the army, and the other one was director of intelligence. So there are people with a lot of power. When you have power, at times, you also want to have what you want. You know, and this is something where President Kagame does not negotiate with. He doesn't care if you are the prime minister or if you are the minister of defense or if you are the most important person in the country. You don't get what's not yours. You know, some of these people had thousands and thousands and thousands, namely the one in South Africa. I mean, the former chief of staff had thousands and thousands and thousands hectares of land that were taken from the population. Thousands. And I mean, being the chief of staff does not give you the right to take things from the population. And so, in other countries, you let them off the hook because you know they will protect you at some point when you need them. In many other countries, you know, that's how you have generals more powerful than presidents. You know, and those generals keep you in power. They keep you in power because they can take you out of power at any given time if you play with their interest. That's how you have countries like Guinea-Bissau. Every day you kill a president. You know, you don't like your president, you shoot him, and that's it. But here in Rwanda, it doesn't work. You have a president. If you do your job, you're his best friend. You don't do your job, thank you, but we don't accept that. We do not tolerate that. You know, so that's how it works. And so sometimes power goes into your head. You know, you start thinking, you know what? I'm still a general. You know, I can still do what I want. And then he goes like,
Entitlement.
guess what? Go to hell.
Mhm.
And then it's easy to go on now. I mean, and the worst thing, what shows you that somehow these people are not true to themselves is that they go back and talk to the people who committed the genocide. You know, they have rapport with the FDLR today. I mean, the president, former chief of staff in the office of the president, now goes and apologizes, says, oh, you know, there was a double genocide, oh, you know, and this and this and that. Why didn't you say this before? You know? Why didn't you say it before? You know? So that's when you see that there's something that smells,
Yeah.
that smells rotten. It's interest. It's interest. But I think if the people here continue to focus on what's positive and what's good out there, what's good for the country, the rest becomes insignificant.
I think I've seen that strategy played out many times. It's we're gonna mind what we're doing, we're gonna do well what we're doing, and let the chips fall, and we'll do it. When we look at the city there and the skyline, everything growing and things like that, can you tell us a little bit about that process? I mean, this whole hillside was covered with homes when we lived here. Those people have all been, their property has been bought, expropriated, business is growing here. What do you tell people in terms of Rwanda's things?
I had a related question.
Yeah.
In places where we've seen the huts being replaced by better homes, is the government funding that, or who's paying for all that?
Absolutely. This is government plan. Sometimes seeing this over there, I think I was telling you the other day, it has a tendency to make you forget about where we're coming from. I was here in '95, I think.
For the
until-
first time?
Yes. But a year later, in '95, in July '95, I could still smell death, corpse. You know, we could still stumble on some
You have enough?
human bones. You know, and things like you would see a dog and you'd be scared, like, oh, you might want to bite me or something, because dogs are used to human flesh. And you go from '95 to these buildings, you see the people dressed up, and a small corporate Rwanda starting to exist. Sometimes it disturbs me a little bit, because, not it disturbs me, but you're like, if anybody comes to Rwanda, they're like, this country doesn't have a problem, you know? However, I'm interested in telling you, why don't we go to the countryside? Why don't we visit the sinners? Why don't we visit the different areas of development? That's where this makes sense, after you've gone to the countryside. Because most people will criticize and say, yes, in Rwanda, you put millions on trees, and you forget about the people, or the people out there who are starving. You know, there is development going there. There is development also in the country, you know, in the countryside, at sector levels. That's why you start seeing real development. That's why you start seeing people expressing their views, people being part of a process, you know. And this is somehow the icing on the cake.
When we drive around Kigali and we see a very large, rather expensive home, a few meters from very dilapidated type housing, how did the people who own that expensive home get that property?
You buy.
From the local people, or those people displaced
So now, when you buy from the local people,
Yeah.
there is also a law saying you need to make sure that you know where that person is relocating. That's very important.
Okay.
Yes, yes, that's very important. You have to help that person to relocate. You can't just
Who
So that's
oversees
why.
that?
That's why you cannot sell without a witness from the local services, public services. The head of your umudugudu, which is the smallest unit, has to be a witness, and he will be the one to see that that person has been able to relocate, because otherwise it becomes a problem.
Exactly.
Yes. So, like some of these lands were bought, people were relocated. There has been some controversies around it, but I know it's being fixed, or if it hasn't been fixed. But all of this green land,
Some people just didn't really want to move, if I understand right, at any cost. I want to live here in this city. I don't want to sell my property, and we've seen that in America. You know, development is coming, and I don't care where you want the freeway. This has been my home, my father's home. I'm not moving. So that kind of unhappiness is pretty much worldwide when you have this conflict of growth and development and the old ways and
Can you tell us a little about, I know I'm gonna mutilate this word, the communes the government is building, the
Umudugudu. That's what he just mentioned. Yeah, the Umudugudu.
Dugudu. Okay, so they replace, the way I understood it, the way it was explained to me, I don't know if I got it correctly, is they take people who don't have water, electricity, they're desperately poor, and they move them into these communities. And the person who told me this said they looked forward to it. They were willing to do that because there were services. There would be a hospital, there would be a school, there would be infrastructure. Is that true? A true assessment?
absolutely. There is a pilot project. I guess because I can claim the Eastern Province as my area more than Kigali. There is one Mudugudu that is a pilot project that I actually I visited a year ago. It is a brick house with 3 bedrooms and a toilet. Outside you have to have a kitchen garden where you grow all your things, and it's done in a certain way, particular way. It doesn't, the space that you have is smaller than this. And then at the bottom of the place, you have a place where you have the cows of everybody stay there, and so they use the manure to fertilize your little piece of land where you grow one particular crop, so you can sell this entire crop and make money. And then you have a nursery and a primary and a secondary school and a hospital and a health center. All of this is within a small community.
And they're limited to about 5,000 people, is that correct?
I don't know the exact limitation.
But there is a
But
limitation.
yes, I don't know the exact limitation. So, because one of the biggest issues is like in Rwanda, everybody owns pieces of land everywhere, and so they don't have access to any type of service. There is no road even that gets to those places. So they wanna. One of the biggest thing that the government is fighting for right now is at least by in the next couple of years have about generate almost enough electricity for almost between 20 to 25% of Rwanda, and yet we are only somewhere between 8 and 10. And in order to generate that, people have to also live in the Mudugudus.
And do the people? Well, I know they share the resources, but do they share the workload like in a kibbutz? In Israel, where people share the work, people are assigned a job.
Okay,
Or is it, can I
that's
make
even
that comparison or not?
No, it's a bit different.
Okay.
First, if most people, the job is working the land.
Okay.
So
and you
now-
could have a cooperative for that.
Now, they have a cooperative.
Cooperative.
Now if they say we want to go maize, that's how they will be able to.
Decisions are made cooperatively among the people who live there.
That's the best way. That's the best way. If they do cooperative, they get money.
And do they have elected officials to kind of help
It's
grease the skids?
I think that's interference is not done. I'm not sure if it's done by the government. Yeah. It's a way for people to live in a community and to access services,
Right.
because each health sector also has an ambulance that can go straight to the district hospital when people are sick. Because one of the key things, like right now, the child mortality rate, Rwanda has achieved the MDGs about a year ago.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, good for you.
In 2011, like child mortality rate, like infants,
Under what age?
Under one.
Under one?
on the one, yeah.
And what is it?
MG, Millennium Development
The
Goals.
Millennium Development Goals.
It's UN.
UN.
So those targets were achieved.
That might be better than us.
Were they all achieved? No, just
No,
John.
for this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
For this one.
Yeah.
And so all of this means that actually I have a friend of mine who owns who is an IT geek. Has built a software that he has sold to UNICEF, and it has been tested in the northern province. It is when a woman becomes pregnant and she goes to the health center and they see, okay, you are, like, let's say you are 2 or 3 months. They record all the data, and all this data, she has to have a phone. In order to have a phone, she has to have electricity at home to charge that phone, right? So all the data are recorded, and each month she's sent a reminder that she needs to go to the health center to visit her doctor on this particular day. And then when she gets close to
The
term,
reminder's a text on her phone?
yes, text on her phone in Kinyarwanda, sent to her. You need to do this, and then 2 weeks later, before she gives birth, you need to have this and this and this and that for your baby, and then 1 week, and then the day before, and the day she gives birth, the district needs to prepare for her. I mean, the health center needs to prepare for her to give birth on that day, and they start communicating. They have to go and get her, or she has to go, and this has worked in the northern province, in Rubengeri, and the system had saved, by the time he was telling me about it, had saved 400 lives.
But
Wow.
what if the woman does not have electricity? I mean, I understand she has to have electricity to charge it. Do they give her how does that
So,
work?
well,
Their neighbor has a solar panel, and they pay their neighbor a little bit of money,
Is
and they
that how
charge
it
it on
works?
I mean, it's so many different ways
Okay,
they'll do like
I-
that. Somebody will
I
have a
didn't
car
know.
battery,
yeah.
and they'll work it up. We helped with a family get a solar panel down in Gitarama from
Mhm.
Buff, and when we went back there a year later just to see it, and it was all installed on the roof. There on the living room, on a chair in the living room, were about 3 cell phones that were being charged by that guy's solar. And you see, he's someone, this Umudugu thing too, it was really interesting, Umudugu, is that I still don't fully understand. People are strongly encouraged, but there's still people who are living out there and not moving in. And I don't know if they've got a deadline or not that they're facing, or if the government has not put it at the deadline, but they're trying to make it so attractive that people will do it. And so this man, he had a fair amount of land, and at a very, very reasonable, according to local people, price. He said, no, we can have here, and he made his land available, and so the people were, they were buying it. It's one thing to say the government helping us do something, but it's another thing if it's just a flat out gift with all its dependencies that are developed.
Right.
And so this guy, the way I understood that Umudugudugu that was growing there was the people were paying like a mortgage now on this piece of property where they built land so they could be there in that community. And he had made land available at a reasonable rate.
Well, I was wondering because I went north on the 17th and my driver showed me. I'm struggling. And he said people want to go there. They hope, like they pray that they'll build one near them so they can have the services. I mean, he was so effusive about it, and that was, I thought, well, what if there's somebody who has a place they don't mind walking down to get water because it's been in their family, like Carl said, for generations.
Well,
But he didn't, he said no, they want him.
this is
I just wondered.
yeah. This would be individuals.
Of
This
course.
really would be individuals who either they can really make it or they think they can and they're not, and the kids are dying. If you have a kid or two dying, and you know, and I mean, you also need to understand that because of like some people having been so poor for all their entire life, some of them don't even have aspiration and don't even, you know, for something better.
Right.
You know, so you would have the individuals where they'll try to make it attractive for you, but it also there are points where say, okay, this is a thing, and this is those are homes, and you know, you should first of all they get paid to build it, they contribute to build it. It's not built by somebody else; they are the ones to build it, so they already make money.
So they're invested.
They invested, so.
The people who live in these places, is electricity affordable for them? I mean, how is it?
Electricity is probably the most expensive in the region because of where we are and everything, but it's slowly, you know.
As they generate more, hopefully at the lake,
Yes.
the gas there at the lake and others, there's potential for Rwanda in the foreseeable near future to be exporting electricity,
Yeah, food and methane.
the methane gas.
It seems to me that, I doubt that as a global community we're gonna meet the MDGs, because isn't 2015 the deadline? But with your 2020 plan, and with all of the projects going on, I think it sounds like in the process of doing that for Rwanda, you're also actually fulfilling most of the goals of the MDGs.
Absolutely, I think by 2015 we will have reached probably I don't know, but at least
Yeah.
more than 60%.
So I was thinking, even if it were by 2020, that would be miraculous. That's wonderful.
Yeah, and I mean, you're not doing it for the UN. You're doing
Yeah,
it for yourself.
exactly.
Yeah,
But
it's a target that you want to reach.
yeah.
And many have been exceeded already, and that's good. I mean, and that's the message that the country is saying. What you're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it to please anybody.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it is for yourself. The genocide took place. Yes, maybe some people helped do the separation and stuff. However, you ended up killing your own people.
Yeah.
So nobody came to you know. So we are responsible for our destiny, and the young Rwandan generation hopefully is starting to understand that you are Rwandan, you are born in Rwandan, and you should be proud of what you are or who you are, whether you're Hutu or Tutsi, whatever you come, and whether you're a man or a woman, you should strive to make a good life for yourself and learn from the bad lessons that we've had as Rwandans. And it's very important also it's very important not to judge anybody because of what type of family he or she may have been coming from. That's very, and that's why if a kid, I mean, you'll see it, if a kid gets the top 10 grades in the country, irrespective of the school, actually Kigali doesn't always get the best grades. You get scholarships, like all sorts of scholarships, presidential scholarships, and that doesn't look like, oh, where is he from? Or which region is he coming from? Or what are the parents doing? Or what are, this doesn't exist anymore. You know, everything has to be done on merit, basis of merit. So yeah, this.
Where do
this
you
is
recommend that if we take a little drive around here, I mean, which of those buildings? The one that's to the right